and happy Tuesday morning as we work our way through the month of August. This is going to be a fun show. I already know it's going to be so much fun. And before I dive into it, I want to go through the usual. So we'll start with checking on those around you. Check on those who you know they've gone through something in the past day, month, year, and even though they look like they're doing fine now, because like you were there when they were having issues, whatever they were going through, and then it looks like they're fine, but the reality is they may not be. They may just be wearing that happy mask to make everybody think everything's okay when they're still dealing with stuff. So check in on them, and if they say they're doing fine, dig deeper, because as Agape told me in the first place, and I love this saying, fine means feelings inward, not expressed. I mean, think about it. How often do you go to the cashier at the grocery store? They ask how you're doing. You say, fine, end of conversation. So dig a little bit deeper. And then I always start with my dear sis, Dr. Constance Leland with Level Up Academy, the Netflix of education, the queen of publicity. And I love doing projects with CJ. Right now, she's got magazines. She's doing the education, and she does publicity. So if you need public relations, if you need publicity of any kind, reach out to CJ. She had a radio at one point, and she'll probably have it again. She's got a live stream. She's got a podcast. I think the TV show is going to be coming back at some point. She's got access to all these industries, all these sites when it comes to public relations. You can scan the QR code or you can DM her. Find her. She's on YouTube. She's on LinkedIn, Instagram, and reach out to her about how she can help you with your own publicity, how to get you out there. She understands the system, and she's also very good at, if you're not ready, she'll let you know and she'll give you guidance on how to make sure that you're ready. So check her out. And then the Hounds of Business. Mike Asherbrainer. When I talk about the Hounds, I talk collaboration over competition. Because that's what I see in the Hounds. I can see a lot of people who it seems like they're doing the same thing and they start collaborating. The thing about collaboration is you get to reduce the anxiety because you're not doing it by yourself. You get to learn from each other. You open each other up to new markets, to new audiences. And just because you might be doing the same thing doesn't mean you're doing the same thing. There's always differences between each of us. We're none of us this being the same. So check out the Hounds, because this is a place where they really do look at community and working together, lifting each other up. And then I have C&M Consulting, my dear sis Danielle, focused on HR. And here's someone who really understands HR, understands the rules, the guidance, the requirements, and is very empathetic. She wants to make sure that as you're doing your HR, as you're putting things together, that empathy comes through. In many ways, it's creating a space of belonging where people can feel seen and heard and belong. And being that she knows and understands HR in that aspect, that is a great way to go. So touch base, Danielle Manawas and C&M Consulting. Then I always throw in this one for Bella Grace, because my dear sis, she has talked about this elixir. April Wyatt has talked about this elixir and how much it's made a difference, how it's really made them feel really good and take away some of the pains and stuff that they'd gone through. Scan the QR code, if you've got questions, you can reach out to CJ for more information on it. This elixir, I'm not able to do it yet, but I'm looking forward to being able to join them on this, because I know how much of a difference it's made in their lives for the better. And then always want to throw this one up, because whenever we go through medical issues, Elise, she's 6, and she goes from graduating kindergarten to suddenly being in the hospital and being diagnosed with Kawasaki disease, which is not, it's not an easy thing to deal with. And it's quite frankly turned their lives upside down, because now, if you remember what it was like with COVID, that's kind of how they have to go, because she got immunocompromised. And there's still medical bills, and there's still things that need to be done. And she's not cleared to just go back to a normal 6-year-old's life. She's still a Spitfire, but she still has medical issues and things that she's got to do. And insurance will only cover so much. So if you can do anything, scan the QR code. Just, even if it's prayers or passing it to others, we need your help. Get this little girl back to her rambunctious self, that she can go outside and play with her friends like usual. And then I want to make sure you remember the 50 Inspirational is still going on. So you can reach out to me. You can reach out to CJ on it with questions. I had the link for it. I forgot to put it up here. It's going to close. It might close at the end of this month. So this is the time to reach out and become a part of it, because there are inspirational people out there, and you're probably one of them, yet holding yourselves back, not willing to be as open and letting others know what's going on, what you're doing. This year, this is the 3rd year. This is an opportunity for many to either apply, or if you know somebody that you think should apply, you can nominate them too. And then they can become part of it that way. And the other thing I love to say is, when you apply, because we never know how many are going to show up, you still are, one of the things that happens is CJ sees everybody. So even if you don't become one of the 50, you're still noticed. And you never know what that notice is going to do. It's like joining the Hounds of Business. Once you get in, you never know what doors are going to start opening. So check it out. And then I want to close out with our next anthology is now open. And we're talking about in the space between. And you can reach out. I'm not sure if the scans are working at the moment, so you can reach out to CJ. You can reach out to me. If you are interested in joining us, we always see people talking about where they were and where they are. And you get that, wow, look at what they've accomplished. But what you don't often see is the story of in the space between. The stuff that people don't talk about oftentimes between where they were and where they are now, or where they were and where they're going. And so many don't want to talk about that in between, but that is such an important aspect of our lives. It really makes a difference in how we make our decisions as we're going through that in-between space. This is an opportunity to share your story of what it was like. Share your voice for what you went through in the space between, and be able to put your story out there as part of an anthology, because somebody out there needs to see your story. They need to read your story. And there's a lot of other benefits to joining us, because you work with CJ and me. It's just the two of us. and we walk you through the steps. We hold your hand through the whole process. We've had so many authors that they came into this with trepidation and they walked out excited to start writing more. It was really amazing how that happened. So check out, contact us, message us. We'd love to have you join us in the space between. Stories we don't say out loud, because you've got a story that needs to no longer stay hidden. And with that, let me see who's here real quick. Homer is first up from the Philippines. Yay, Homer. And how are you doing, Beverly? It's great to see you here. But now I'm just anxious to get Royce up here. So let's dive into this.
Hey, so great to see you, Susanna.
I'm just glad to have you on. And okay, I'm like a lot of others. It's like once you start talking, it's like just let them talk. You've got that voice.
Please feel free to interrupt me because I can go on forever. Trust me.
I know how that goes. I've done that myself, where it's like, wait a minute, I need to step back a little bit.
Yeah. See, on the radio, people could just change stations. So luckily you never knew when they did. So that was part of the fun. You didn't take it personally. So yeah, I'm here to talk about anything you'd like.
Well, I want to start off with, because you've got so many things in your background. I mean, you talk about, I'm looking at it and you telling me 30 plus years, and I'm looking at it going, it seems like it's a few more than that in the radio.
Yeah, it is. But I didn't want to sound too old. You know what I mean? So yes, it's been quite a bit longer than that. But yeah, if you're wondering how I got my start, I was actually, you remember school field trips? I don't know if you ever went on one, but they would take you out to see, to a dairy to see how they milk cows or whatever. And I was I believe I was about 13, somewhere in there. And we went to a radio station, a local radio station. And I walk in there and I see this guy, great music playing loud, his feet up on the console. He's smoking a cigar, reading the newspaper. And I asked him, I said, "Do you get paid for this?" And he just looked at me and he goes, "Crazy, huh?" And I'm like, that's it. That's the job I want. And that's kind of how it started, and ended up building a mini radio station at my high school. It wasn't really live on the air until my senior year. We had a low power FM. You could get it for, about 3 football fields away from the high school. But and then we just play music at lunch for all the students. And of course, I was the main disc jockey since I helped build it, but we had other students on there as well. I ended up getting a job in Los Angeles. So I would drive from West Covina, which is a suburb of LA, downtown LA, every day after school, and met some incredible, I won't give you names because unless you're on the West Coast, they probably don't mean anything, of amazing disc jockeys. And I always like to say, yes, I started my radio career in Los Angeles and worked my way down ever since. So, I mean, that was kind of my entrance into broadcasting.
Well, Sharon's got the WKRP, so it's like you start talking the beginning. I'm going Johnny Fever, and I'm thinking that the classic when they did. We talked about how the radio stations change their format.
Absolutely, we actually did I did mornings in San Diego for many years, and we actually did our own turkey drop that caused all kinds of mayhem in San Diego. So. Yes, it was a long involved situation. So
the Les Nessman, Les Nessman, but I thought they could fly.
Yeah, No.
And
And
Johnny
we
Fever.
ended up dropping. We had our own helicopter. The station had its own helicopter, so we actually dropped them from a helicopter. But we never said on the air that we weren't dropping real turkeys. So, of course, massive controversy. PETA was protesting the station. It was just, and we loved it. What we dropped was gift certificates for turkeys. So, but we were encouraging people to wear hard hats, come out with pool nets, anything you can do to catch them. And of course, these little, gift certificates flew down. So it all worked out and we got a ton of free press out of it. Thanks for helping and remembering that from sometime in the late 90s, probably.
Well, quite frankly, it almost sounds like it was about the same time that KRP did that one on the TV show. Because
I think it was a little bit later than that, but yes.
yeah, but I mean, it's at that same time frame, and so, and I always love watching the YouTube short on when Johnny Fever's told, "We're changing the format. You can play whatever you want." And so he takes that
Yes.
a song is like scratches across the record,
Oh,
and then
believe
puts
me,
on real
I
music.
started when you could actually still play your own songs on occasion. And, we didn't have anything digital. And, boy, radio has changed a lot. There are
Yeah.
very few humans left in radio. And,
Oh,
it's sad. I understand why it is. It's corporate, but why not? So if a station or, a morning show takes off in Cincinnati, why not put it out to all our markets, right? And so you have so very few corporation own a ton of radio stations. So if it works in Cincinnati, hey, why not throw it out to Dallas and Sacramento or wherever else?
right.
So
Um,
that's what it's come down to.
April's wondering when you were in San Diego because she was there 88 to 92.
I am horrible at dates. I'm not sure, April, because I don't know why. I can remember a page number in a book I started reading 2 weeks ago. But if you ask me what years, I would say 95 ish to 2000, somewhere in there. So, but
Okay.
like I said, I was actually, sometimes it's a great thing to have. I had somebody call me because they owed me money from a station I worked at for some pension plan they had or something. And they asked me when I worked there. And I was like, can you give me a decade? Let's start there. Okay. Because I don't know why I'm horrible with dates. I can remember call letters and things like that. And definitely crazy stories from that period, but dates, I don't know why. So, but I was on KCBQ in San Diego, if that helps, April.
Yeah, she said, would I have it right there? She was listening to KGGO.
Oh, you traitor. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
So it, but as when we were talking about this, because you have so much, but one of the things that you really talk about that I see when I'm looking at LinkedIn and stuff is your keeping any audience engaged, and I'm curious how you do that with, because you talk about working with podcasters and such,
Right.
how you
Well,
help them
what
stay.
happened is, I did mostly morning shows,
Okay,
which is prime time for radio.
right,
And by the way, the hardest part isn't getting up at 3:30, it's being funny at 5 a.m. That's the hardest part because people don't care what your life, it doesn't matter if you just ran over your cat. Shut up and play the next song, please. That's all they're caring about. So, you have to be entertaining and funny. But I was done with my day usually by 10 a.m. And after a much needed nap, I realized I had my whole day ahead of me, really, pretty much. And that's when I started to get into marketing. I found this book. I'm not sure if it's still out there. It was called How to Make Money in Your Underwear. I thought, wow, I got to check this out. And it was basically about copywriting. And I've been doing that for over 20 years now. And I found it's really hard, even though I had to be creative every day live. There was no editing, right? You don't get, the great thing about radio is it's live and it's real. The
Right.
bad thing is once you do something incredible, it's gone. It's gone forever. So, what's the next thing? But, relating that to copywriting is has been a challenge for me. And a couple of folks that I work with who are much more successful than I am, they said, hey, they kind of kicked me in the butt and said, why aren't you using your radio skills? I'm like, I'm trying to tell people how creative I am. Good luck with that, right? Hey, you want to hire me? I'm creative. They're like, no, thanks. But they said, start using your radio skills. And I talked to a couple of podcasters just on the side. They're like, hey, I love how you talk to people. Can you give me some tips on that? And after about 3 of those, I thought, wow, people may or may not want this. And that's when I came up with right now, I have a free 5-day email crash course on podcast excellence, where I talk about interviewing skills and just improving your overall vocal presentation. And by the way, you can get that on my website, voiceofroyce.com. Clever, huh? Voiceofroyce.com. And that's all free. But I've interviewed well over 200 celebrities and probably at least another 100, let's call them normal people, but, usually people that had strange talents or Guinness World Record holders or, things like that.
Yeah, no, I think about the radio shows that I'd listen to, and I don't know how. I just never could figure out how these guys could keep going the way they did. But
Sometimes it's easy if there's something big in the news or,
right,
some crazy celebrity scandal or something. Sometimes what people are talking about and you can jump on it. And other times, you have to come up with, a funny bit or some crazy stunt. And boy, did we come up with a lot of them.
well, the other thing too would be, part of it's going to depend on who else is on it. It's like, were you the solo guy, and then there
Oh,
were
no. I mean,
was it
several, yes. I mean, several times when I was doing, I've done tons of afternoon shows and things like that. The thing about radio, most people don't realize is you have to move a lot, because I've never been personally fired. It's always been either new ownership or guess what, guys, we're going country and see y'all later. So, I mean, that's usually how it happens. So you have two choices. You can stay in the town you're in and hope, another disc jockey dies, or you can move. I mean, that's basically it. So I moved a lot. I like to kid that I belong to the U-Haul Million Milers Club. I don't think that's a real thing, but it feels like it. And if you want to get good at something, don't make it moving. But I'm excellent at packing now. So anyway, going different places all the time. Every city is awesome because, I worked in Kansas City, did mornings there. Talk about barbecue. It's amazing, right?
right,
I know you're from Oregon, and I used to work in Portland. Talk about awesome seafood, right? Fresh salmon, cheap, caught. Oh, I don't know. What time is it? I mean, it's that's how fresh it is. So every city had a great new gift. But once again, moving is, not for the faint of heart. But it really depends on what's going on in that city. And as far as morning partners, I've had some incredible ones. And
right.
most of them, I say most of them, there are actually, I shouldn't bag on him too much, but I've had one, Tina Naughton is still, you can find her on Facebook or whatever. She's now she always kind of had psychic abilities, but she's now pretty much a world-class psychic or reader, whatever she is. But she was a television anchor for the CBS affiliate, and she became my morning partner. And now she works at Miraval. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but big ritzy resort in Tucson. So, I've had another one, Denise White, who is now a superstar sports agent with a lot of clients that we'd all recognize. And she works at EAG Sports, and she's making way more money than I am, but loved her. And she was Miss Oregon. So yes. And then the one guy I didn't really want to bag on too much was also one of my favorites. On the air, he was the world famous Goat Boy. And yes, just like the name sound, he was an acerbic Italian kind of guy that would say anything to anyone. And one of the perks of being on the air is I've done a lot of things most normal people can't do. I broadcast the Olympics from Norway. And that's a whole long story. I'm trying to edit myself, Susanna. But we were asked to leave one of the Olympic venues because the Goat Boy lit a cigarette off the Olympic torch. So, I mean, that gives you an idea of the Goat Boy's psyche. So, but always great on the air, So, yes, it does take a team for sure.
Well, it's kind of funny too, because as we talk about this, it's like you've got your stories and everything, but it's interesting how suddenly I'm remembering a lot of the things that I remember from the radio stations that I listened to, because they all had different stuff. There was one radio station that I think it was like Sundays at 10 o'clock. They played old time radio shows.
Right.
And but this is like very early 80s is when this was happening, because that's when I moved out here, was the end of 79, and I've been here since. But maybe it's time to move.
Well, if you need help packing, let me know. I'll give you some tips.
Yeah, I know somebody who definitely wants the tips. I know somebody.
Well, I mean, the values of even old time radio shows haven't really changed as far as engaging an audience. One of the things I see today is people forget, and this is included in my email course and in my book. My ebook is How to Keep an Audience: Interviewing Skills from a 30-Year Radio Pro. And one of the things I see is people don't realize podcasts are almost always a solitary experience. You're not only talking to one person, but you're usually talking to someone that is already involved with something else. They're driving, they're vacuuming, they're washing the dishes, they're doing yard work. Think about when you listen to podcasts, right? You're pretty much doing something else. So it's so important to realize you're talking to one person. And what I keep yelling at people about, well, not really yelling, but you get what I mean, is the word you should use always, ingrain it in your brain, is you. Don't talk to an audience or everybody.
Right.
Use the word you as much as possible because it makes it more personal, and talk to one person. I used to always, on the air, for instance, it's obviously hard if we're on, a video podcast, is to close your eyes, right? I just used to close my eyes and listen through the headphones and think, and imagine how this came out to them. And you can actually hear and all of a sudden change your tone, slow things down, or if you're getting crazy, speed them up. So, these are the things that, because you realize you're talking to one person. I was asked, one time they did a story on me in San Diego, and I knew I had well over 100,000 listeners. And they asked me about, how big is your audience? What's your audience size? And my answer was one. I'm talking to one. And that's the kind of mindset you kind of need to get if you want to keep people engaged.
It makes total sense, because it's like it's even the same as doing the post. I mean, I know so many people, they want their posts to go viral, but just write the post, speak
Right.
on a one-to-one basis.
I always suggest, you should write, and I do a lot of writing, like you're at a barbecue talking to a friend, because today, with AI, things have changed, especially on places like LinkedIn and YouTube, because now AI is reading everything that you produce before it decides where to put it. Now, you used to, back not too long ago, it depended on how many followers you had, right? They always got first dibs when it came to the algorithm, but not anymore. I mean, you can take look at quote unquote viral posts today. A lot of them come from really small accounts because AI says, "Wow, okay," which is why the first hour, as I'm sure we all know, is so important when it comes to social media. If people are reacting quickly, then all of a sudden the algorithm, oh, okay, maybe I'll show this to a few more folks. And it just grows from there. Same with email. It used to be like a no to put free or sale in your subject line, right? That would immediately send it to spam, but not anymore, because every time you send an email, it reads it. The AI reads it, no matter what platform you're using, unless it's Bob's, backyard email system that I haven't heard of. They're all reading every one of your emails before they decide where to put it. So, same on LinkedIn, same on Facebook. So, it'll decide whether or not, in other words, they're going for relevancy. That is LinkedIn. That's their new favorite word, is relevancy. And is this relevant to your audience or maybe a few others outside of your network? So, yeah, things are changing every day, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, I know. And well, CJ too, she's helped me to be more into the AI, and also just to lock it down. So
Yeah, it can do so much. I use it a lot, never to write, never to actually, I would never send anything out that was entirely AI written, but it's great for ideation, coming up with outlines, things like that. And, and once again, I mean, ChatGPT 5 just came out. Some people hate it. I think it's getting deeper. I also love Grok on X. That's a great one. Claude is great if you're writing like an entire book. That's more great for authors. So they all have, different, and once again, they're all fighting each other. So it changes almost every day. But guess what? It's here. It's here, whether we like it or not. And it's not going. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, right, Susanna?
it never works. Everything is like, once it's out, you can't. It's just like
Right.
words. Once the words are out, you can't get them back. There's gone.
Right. And the important thing too, I think a lot of people need to really embrace is it's no longer about likes or followers or things like that, especially in places like LinkedIn. Don't forget the lurkers, because the big people, right? The big decision makers aren't going to have time to like a post or post a comment. They're too busy making millions. But guess what? They're reading and they're out there. I just got a client about 4 weeks ago now that had been following me for 3 years, had never commented, liked, or connected with me or anything. I'd never heard of this guy. And he'd been following me for 3 years. So don't discount the lurkers. It's the same thing on the radio. The nice part is, well, two things. The nice part is Nobody has to see you, right? How many times have we heard the joke, right? Hey, you got a face for radio, So, or in my case, I've had this several times, as most disc jockeys have, when somebody comes up and says, wow, I didn't think you looked like that. And so, what do you say to that? I actually have 2 African American babies named after me. And talk about awkward, because they didn't know I was white. They just liked the name Royce, so they named their sons Royce. So they brought the babies down to the station for me to meet them, and they're like, "Wow!" You could see, the awkwardness, and I wondered what was going on. And after a short conversation, we were all laughing about it. But yeah, you just never know what's out there. The other awesome thing about radio, and this is a tough one to learn, is you'll remember this. You remember the request line at radio stations, Susanna?
Mm-hmm.
You could call in and, request your favorite song. Well, I'd have to answer those, right? And you talk about not worrying about trolls or bad comments on your post. Wait till you hear, for probably at least tens of times, someone waiting on hold for 30 minutes just to yell into the phone, "You suck." So after you get, a few of those, and believe me,
Yeah.
I've had a lot worse, you realize, look, nobody better than you is ever going to put you down. You need to realize that. My always great comeback, and this works on LinkedIn and other platforms too. If somebody dissed me on the request line, I'd always say, "Hey, thanks so much. I'm glad you're listening." And they would go ballistic. That would just drive them crazy. Same thing on LinkedIn. If you get some flaming troll on there, or YouTube, or wherever, then, thank them for increasing your reach. They hate that too. So, I mean, just respond with love. That's
Hopefully
my
Steve is
philosophy.
listening to that one, because I remember on our show, we ended up having one of those trolls. It's like we finally had a troll kind of show up, and it's like, yeah, maybe those would have been some good comebacks for the
Right.
comments that were made. But
I learned a great phrase from an old time broadcaster who is a very controversial newscaster. He would say, he usually had like a 5-minute newscast, and he would end with like a minute long, kind of opinion piece. And he would just go way off on all kinds of stuff. And I took him aside one day and I said, don't people get angry, and aren't you worried about that? And he gave me the best line. He goes, "Royce, I don't care if they hate me, as long as they hate me every day." And I was like, that's it. That's the philosophy I read. So if you don't have haters, you're not pushing the envelope enough. That's my philosophy anyway.
I love it. And the other thing, so we've kind of talked about this, and I love how you're there to help others in terms of just getting their feet wet and taking this knowledge of keeping people engaged. That's the one thing that I think can often be the hardest, is finding that way to keep people engaged. And
Right. There are so many great, I was going to mention a few, but they don't need the free plugs. So there are so many great YouTubers that can tell you how to start a podcast, that give the tech, right? Best thumbnails, SEO, optimization, things like that, for your topics. But I haven't seen anyone talk about interviewing skills and how to actually talk to people, how to get guests to shut up, how to get guests to open up. Because believe me, I've had the gamut over my radio career. And remember, I was live. You don't have the chance to edit. So I've learned a whole bunch of things, and we're living right now in an awesome time. And I think it's going to go away soon. We're living in an era where you can start a podcast free, right? All you need to do is sign up and you're on. And, I always tell people shoot for the smallest viable audience possible. You don't have to have 10,000 followers. That's not the idea. I guarantee you, if if you love to build birdhouses, there are other people out there that love to build birdhouses. You get that small audience and make them into fans. The great thing about a podcast too is people will tell you what they like and what they don't like. I mean, it's almost depending on how often you're posting, or throwing up a show, you're going to get valuable input. Hey, I wish you would do more of this, or don't do that again. And that's just awesome audience research, better than any data you can get from, some machine. But we're in an area where you can, put content out there. Don't worry about it, because that small audience, they're going to refer you to their friends. It's word of mouth. They're going to let you grow and grow bigger and bigger and bigger.
Right.
And, that's the secret right there.
And I love what CJ's got there, because framework queen is going to be one of the next things she gets, because she turns everything, she turns almost everything into an acronym, which then becomes a framework.
Awesome.
If you see the shows that we've done when we talk about Unmute by Design, she started with voice, and the next thing I know, she's like turned the acronym into something about getting your voice out there. Because she's a framework queen.
Yeah, well, it makes it easy to remember too and use. So that's a secret. Yeah, it's the thing I always tell, and I do this in the email course and on my website and wherever I can, is research is vital. That is the one thing most people miss, especially when it comes to guests. I would do more research. I made sure I had 10 questions I didn't have time to ask. That's the kind of research I would dive into. I'll give you a quick example, because like I said, I've interviewed hundreds of very large celebrities, and most of these celebrities are on a press junket, right? They go from radio station to maybe a TV station back to a radio station. So by the time they get to you, you may have been, interview number 9, whatever, let's say. And I had Mike Tyson on. And, I'm sure everybody was asking the same questions, right? Fight with Evander Holyfield, boxing, boxing, boxing. I happened to dig deep and know that Mike's hobby was racing pigeons. Now, believe it or not, I know nothing about racing pigeons. I never heard of it. But when I asked him that question, he lit up like a Christmas tree. And he knew instantly that I had done my research, because I was the only, my motto is ask them a question they've never been asked before. And that's the secret,
Oh, that's a good motto.
Yes,
I think
dive deep. And these days it's so easy to search, right? We can dive in, and don't ever go by the book jacket or the publicity report or the bio they send you. Dive deeper. If it's a celebrity, I'm sure there's all kinds of dirt. If you dive deep, obviously you don't want to throw up dirt in their face, or it'll be a very short interview. But the late great Bob Barker and I became such good friends just from the interviews that I did with him, that he gave me his home phone because he was tired of booking this stuff. He goes, just call me, give me a week's notice. I'll be glad to come on. So,
wow.
that's this, because I would ask him questions I knew no one would ever ask him. And if you're a longtime fan of The Price is Right, everybody was asking about, right, girls' tops falling down or things about the big wheel. I knew that there were only 7 Plinko chips ever made. I knew they're kept in a safe, so they can't be altered. But I would ask him even more specific questions. Why did they get rid of the penny ante game? Because once they retire a game on Price is Right, it's gone forever.
Right.
And he just started laughing, and he told me, because the damn pennies kept getting stuck. So, I mean, but he knew at that point that I had done my research, and people will open up. That's one of the secrets.
Yeah. I'm getting better at that, but I know CJ's definitely, it's fun watching her. I'm learning a lot from her as well. So it's like, as I'm listening to you and I'm thinking what I've seen, I love this connection, and I want to kind of go into a different direction.
Sure.
Because I remember there was somewheres within stuff I saw for you, and maybe it was something that you had posted too, where you talked about masks. Because I talk about masks all the time, the masks that we wear, how we're always hiding ourselves. And I felt like there was something in that you seem to have that connection with it as well. Because this world spends so much time hiding behind a mask, hiding behind, well, I guess in radio you can hide behind the microphone, but
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I was never, I was lucky, really. And, obviously the people I worked with and things like that, that I was never really, uh, well, I don't really have I've always been Royce on the radio or some form of that. For a time during the disco era, I was Sheriff Royce. But besides that,
oh, there's
but
stories there. I know that.
yeah, I mean, and almost everybody gets into, it's called voice affectation in radio, because you remember the first time you heard your voice, recorded, and you listen back to it, everybody goes through wow, I sound like that, right? Because you're hearing as yourself for the first time, thanks to the bones in your skull, exactly how you sound to other people. Well, when you're live, like we are now, then, you're hearing it in real time, and you realize that if you talk a little lower, wow, that sounds better. And if you go even lower, wow, that sounds even better. And we get to the radio voice, which in the industry is called puking, because pretty soon you're down to here. And after a while, you start talking like this, and then it becomes crazy Eddie. So, I mean, luckily I went through that period when we always thought we sounded cool, but I was never a different personality entirely, you know, like the world famous Goat Boy was, right? That was a character. Now, as far as masks, it's been challenging for me. I lost my wife uh, almost 5 years ago now, to Alzheimer's, which I don't wish on anyone, because she went from managing a law firm with 3 different attorneys by herself to, asking me what a doorknob did. I mean, and I was her full-time caregiver. At the same time, I was still on the air. That slowly faded away because I had to be with her all the time,
Right.
and, but, she was the love of my life. We were together for almost made it to 40 years. So when you lose something like that, I guess the good part is it's slow instead of a car wreck, where it's instant. On the one hand, I kind of wish it was instant. That
I,
would have made more sense. So, that will screw with your head. And that's why I'm a big proponent of therapy. You need to talk to people and tell them
Mhm.
exactly what you're feeling. It makes you braver in my mind. I don't, forget whatever it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's you're asking for help, and you'll be amazed at the people that will step forward to help you. I know I've had some incredible people.
I
And to give you an idea, I don't know why I'm bringing this up, but just to give you an idea of the mentality of radio disc jockeys, at least the ones I knew, because you have to be so nice and proper. Same with TV people. I know a lot of TV folks that, off air, they're usually pretty dark when it comes to humor, right? I mean, these are scary people. Funniest people I know. 3 different people I know from radio called me after my wife had died and said, "Why couldn't it have been you?" So, I mean, that's the, why didn't you die instead of her? So that's how much she was loved. But, that I still laugh because, that's humor. That's how we dealt with things. So,
well, and I when it comes to that, I completely understand it, because tomorrow I keep telling my sisters, it's like, I'm not sure how I'm going to be this week overall, because tomorrow's the 5th year anniversary of my mom passing from Alzheimer's. And
excellent.
so
And you know what I went through.
I know what you went through, and I know what it was like. For me, I was, during that 5 years that she was in memory care, I was kind of bouncing between here, which is where she is, and then overseas, because my spouse was overseas. So I'm doing this back and forth thing, which means I see things a little differently than those that are in it, like my dad, day by day.
Day by day, right?
And to see kind of who she remembers when you walk in, and
Right.
she's forgotten. And I
Right.
think I end up being the last one. I'm not sure she ever forgot, but I know I'm the last one that she remembered. And I was her first. So
Right. Yeah, it's a strange disease because, there would be times where we didn't know what a fork was for, and then she would turn around and write numbers perfectly, 1 through 10, but with better handwriting than I have. So it's like, phew, who knows? Who knows what's going on with this stuff? So my
yeah.
point is we're all going through something,
Yep.
right? And because my phrase is I take life a quarter hour at a time. The reason I chose quarter hour is because that's how they rate radio stations, by each quarter hour.
Right.
So, and friends of mine that are in radio or have been, they get that. So whether it's whether it's an hour at a time, a day at a time, or as another friend of mine says, tick to talk. So, I mean, that's, whatever you have to do, it doesn't matter. All we're guaranteed is now. That's it. So don't fret over stuff. I have a big sign right above my monitor. I'm looking at it right now. It's 3 feet long. I'll give you the PG version. It says, "Hey, you've screwed up way bigger things than this." So, it reminds me that if in doubt, just throw it up, test it, try something, because welcome to marketing, right? You never know. It's like trying to measure love, good luck on that. So that's
Yeah.
my philosophy. Keep trying stuff.
We have to, and find the ways to, quite frankly, because as we're talking about this, because of how I view the masks and covering and hiding things, it's like you got to have that place that you can take those masks off, that you can stop. And you talk about being able to ask for help. That's, for me, it's like having that core circle that I can go to. I can say anything, say how I'm doing, be honest about it, and know that nobody's going to turn around and judge me for being depressed or whatever. I'm not going to hear somebody
Right.
say, oh, just get through it. You'll get through it. No problem. It's like
Yeah,
they're there.
something,
They listen.
here's a thing I learned from public speaking because I've done a lot of that as well. And you're so worried about how you look, how are they receiving this, and it's the same for almost all forms of really marketing in general or media. We're so worried about how people are seeing us. Guess what? They're worried about them while you're thinking, oh man, I hope I made that point clear. Sally's over there worried about her hair. So, it's don't people, it's usual. In fact, that's one of my bedrocks of marketing. Everybody should get this in their brain before I write anything, produce anything. I always ask the question, who is this for? You
Mhm.
have to get in mind exactly who this is for. And like if I'm doing a podcast or on the radio, even, I would put a picture up of what my ideal listener looked like. And I would talk to that picture. And it makes it much more personal because everybody is thinking the same thing. What's in it for me? And if you understand that concept, then who's this for makes a lot more sense because all we care about doesn't matter if you're buying pants, you're buying a SaaS product, you're thinking the same thing. What's in it for me? And that's more human psychology than anything.
A lot of psychology. Of course, I have to be careful with that one too. CJ's getting me more into that. So, and it's coming right back to covering and belonging and all that because I talked about the anthologies that we're doing, and there's also an academic book that we're in the midst of now, and that one is focused on for my chapter. It's focused on belonging and how that leads to productivity, and I think a lot of us don't quite understand. We keep walking around with those masks because we never feel safe, no matter where we are, whether it's the workplace, society, and sometimes even in our own home. We have to wear a mask because
Yeah,
we don't
but
feel safe.
I mean, you need to understand you're never going to be for everybody. Some people aren't going to like you,
Yep.
but no one better than you will ever put you down. And if you get that in your head, and I always ask, if I'm face to face, which doesn't happen very often, but if somebody's really pushing me on something, I'll ask them, hey, are you okay? And it almost diffuses the conversation instantly. I'm like, wow, because if you're this mad about that, it seems like something else is going on in your life.
Yeah.
And that's kind of because believe me, as I said, you answer the request line for a few decades, you get used to people hating you, and it's okay. It's, believe me, it's part of the deal. Doesn't matter. I mean, look at stars on TV, right, or anywhere. you know how many letters do they get about their nose is too big, or they hate your voice, or whatever. It's part
Right.
of the deal.
It's crazy. And what else is crazy is like we've hit the hour. It's
I
time.
told you I can talk forever.
Oh, well, it's just time
I used to get
flies.
paid a lot of money for it.
So I'm so glad that you were here, and um, I want you to be able to just tell people how to find you, how to get a hold of you, and any last things
Absolutely.
that you want to share.
Sure. The website is voiceofroyce.com. And you can find my free 5-day email crash course to podcast excellence. And it's really not just for podcasters. If you host events or anytime you want to give a presentation, I think this will give you some really, each lesson contains pages of tips and an extended video from me explaining the concept. And it's all free, and you get 5 days worth. you can take it at your own pace. So it's all there. My book is there. So, and of course you can find me on LinkedIn. Just look at Royce Blake on LinkedIn. I do believe I'm the only one there. So
I suspect
kind
that
of a
is
weird name. So voiceofroyce.com is the place to go.
awesome.
Thank you so much for this, Susanna. I appreciate it.
Oh, I had a blast with this, and with all the comments, and it's like, yeah, Sharon, the psychological safety is crucial, and that happened to be one of the things that I talk about in my chapter. So I'm finding myself talking more on psychology than I ever expected. But I know whose fault it is, and it's not mine.
Yes. Well, it pretty much runs the world, whether we like it or not.
Yep. So I'll talk to you after this is done. But as I close, enjoy this little ditty that CJ put together for the 50 Inspirational, because that is still going on. And I will see you all next week. Bye.
Thanks so much.
Yo, it's not just a scroll. It's a movement. Get it? Hey, let's get it. Let's get it. Tap in, level up, this the real lane. Dr. Leyland dropping fire, not playing games. 50 deep with a mission and a voice. Ain't just talk, we the power, we the choice. We spotlight rebels, dreamers, queens, bosses, builders, legacy machines. You want truth, you want real. This the type of vibe that you feel and heal.
From the mic to the gram, LinkedIn too. 50 connections, yeah, that's the crew. Wanna grow, wanna shine, wanna be seen. This the dopest network on the scene. So don't just lurk, engage, ignite. Click that follow, change your life. This ain't hype, this a tribe on a mission. Level up, style, legacy edition. So don't just lurk, engage, ignite. Click that follow, change your life. This ain't hype, this a tribe on a mission. Level up, style, legacy edition.
Let's the real man, yeah. Let's get it. Type, yeah. Let's the real man, hey. Type in, level up, just the real lane. Dr. Leyland dropping fire, not playing games. 50 deep with the mission and a voice. Ain't just talk, we the power, we the choice. We spotlight rebels, dreamers, queens, bosses, builders, legacy machines. You want truth, you want real. This the type of vibe that you feel and heal.
From the mic to the gram, LinkedIn too. 50 connections, yeah, that's the crew. Wanna grow, wanna shine, wanna be seen. This the dopest network on the scene. So don't just lurk, engage, ignite. Click that follow, change your life. This ain't hype, this a tribe on a mission. Level up, style, legacy edition. So don't just lurk, engage, ignite. Click that follow, change your life. This ain't hype, this a tribe on a mission. Level up, style, legacy edition.
It's the movement. It's getting. Yeah. We all drop night shit. Jack and over.